Greetings, friends, and today I just want to start off with a little bit of a story. Years ago, when I was in junior high school, I remember going to take my first shop class, and I was so excited. It was wood shop, and and we had this old teacher by the name of Mr. Walters who really just hated every kid that stepped through the doors. But after about 3 weeks of this class, I'm about to lose my mind because I was excited to take a shop class. My father had a great big garage with all kinds of tools, and I worked every day out there. I made little boxes and stuff. So anyway, after 3 weeks of class, Mr. Walters was like, "Today we're going to learn about a screwdriver. This is a hammer. Here's how you cut a board. We're going to learn about sanding." And after about 3 weeks, I turned to my buddy Billy and I said, "I can't take it anymore, Billy." And we had to check out projects from this great big notebook. I went right to the back of the notebook and I selected an advanced project that was like 3.5, 4 weeks. And so I took up my plans for that and I handed it in. I got all of my wood, I put it in a bag, and I took it home for the weekend. And so I went home on that Friday and I was gonna make a step stool because my mother wanted a step stool. She's short like me. She couldn't reach things around the class. I'm gonna make Mom a step stool. So I cut out all of that wood and I get it all ready. And on Saturday morning, I'm out in the garage and my dad comes by and he says, "Hey, Stevie, what's up with the puzzled look on your face there?" And I said, "Well, Dad," I said, "this is a stupid design." I said, "The minute you step on this step stool, it's going to collapse. It's going to fall apart." I said, "It's stupid." He said, "Well, maybe they just made it for show for your class." And I said, "No, I need a step stool for Mom for Christmas because she has to reach everything in the kitchen." And Dad says, "Well, what are you gonna do?" And I said, "Well, look at this." And I'm looking at all this, and he would never tell me what to do, but he says, "Well, what are you gonna do about it?" And I said, "Well, I think I could add some support here. If I put in extra pieces of wood here, then I could do this, and then I could put another hole here." And he said, "And what would that do for you?" And I said, "Well, then I could put this up." And he said, "Well, how would that work?" And my dad says, "Well, what if you drilled into that?" And I said, "Well, it'll split the wood." And he said, "Well, what are you going to do?" I said, "Well, I'll probably put a pilot hole here." And he asked me question after question after question, never giving me an answer on how I'm going to redesign this little step stool. So I cut extra pieces of wood and I put in extra support and I put in different screws and I put pilot holes in there and I created a masterpiece step stool. And I looked at that thing come Sunday morning. Oh boy, I sanded that thing down and then I stained it. That was finished. 3.5 week project took us. I got this thing done, baby. And I take it back to class. Monday morning, Mr. Walters had a way of embarrassing every kid in the class because he would grade your projects in front of everybody. "Any projects to grade?" And all the kids are taking up their little pieces of wood, C minus, D. I never saw him give a B or better, but I knew this was my golden moment. I made a advanced project of a step stool and I'm going to get it graded. I proudly walked up to that desk and I put it on that desk. Mr. Walters looked at it and he said, "You didn't make this. Who made this for you? What, did your brother finish it? Where did you get this done? Somebody else do it for you?" I said, No, I worked all weekend on this thing. I cut this. I did all that." "You're a liar." And he took my paper, he wrote C minus on it and threw it back at me like that. And I took the walk of shame back to my desk. And I went home that day and I told my dad about it. I said, "Dad, he called me a liar and said I didn't build that." And my dad says, "Well, let's look at this then. What do you think your teacher was really saying to you, Stevie?" And I said, "Well, he was saying that I was incapable of doing a job that great." And he said, "So what do you think he's saying?" And I said, well, it's better than anybody could ever do in our classroom." And he said, "Right, Stevie, for as long as you live, I never want you to forget that. You did such a good job on your step stool that your teachers thought that you were incapable of doing such a good job." He said, "That's the highest compliment your teacher ever gave you. You be proud of that step stool for as long as you live." And I gave it to my mom for Christmas that year. And I remember she used it for decades and decades. And to this day, I look back on this because, my father, I have a friend of mine by the name of Sean Casey, and he and I are writing a book together. And it's called when we were all coaches. And it's about what great leaders do, whether they're teachers or parents or administrators. And it's not about telling people what to do, but it's about asking the right questions. And, even as I trained counselors for years, I would say it's not about telling your clients what to do. You're going to make them dependent on you. But reality therapy has a great question. He says, William Glasser says, is doing what you are doing getting you what you want? It's all about the questions we ask ourselves. And great parents, on this Father's Day, I think about my dad, and it's like, Dad made me a better person, not by telling me what to do, but by asking all the right questions. And Sean Casey helped me to remember that again. And all of these great moments that we've had in history, if you even look at the turmoil in the world right now, and I think back to John Kennedy, he asked a good question. He says, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. Instead of just judging and telling people what we think, maybe we're not asking the right questions of ourselves and of our own lives. And I think about that step stool all the time. My mother can no longer use it, so I got it at home. And actually, this is the step stool. My mother had painted it white. And oh my goodness, I wish she wouldn't have over that. But she loved this step stool, and she used it for years and years and years to reach everything around the house. And whenever Annie is hiding candy that's out of my reach, I know about it. And I've got my handy step stool that I can use. You can see that back then Batman was popular. I had the design there. But in the end, Mr. Walters paid me that compliment. And as I look at my step stool, I thought maybe there was a subliminal message that I was giving to old Mr. Walters there too. Because if you notice in the design when I cut it, maybe I was giving him the finger there in the final analysis. But I'll never forget that. And I think about what great leadership is and what great dads do. And if you have a dad out there, and whether they're with you now or they no longer with you, but it's the questions that they ask you. And I think about great dads on this Father's Day. And it's worth reflecting on what they did to make you a better person. And maybe if you're a parent or a teacher or you're an administrator and you're trying to, help people along in their way, and you're looking at your own kids, it's not about telling them what to do, but it's about asking the right questions so they can be more powerful, they can be more independent, they can figure things out on their own. And that's what life is all about. And so with that, I just want to say, Happy Father's Day. Dad, thank you.